I'm Jonas, aka Uman from Blokhe4d. And I'm going to show you how to make a couple of sounds, mainly with Massive, some of which may be similar to stuff that you can find on our sample CD that just came out on Loopmasters. So check it out if you got time. So yeah, let's open up an instance of Massive. The initial sound that everybody knows. So first off, there's so many wavetables. Stay with that. Put it on bend, positive, negative. See how it is. Always move it around a bit. Find that bit that you find interesting. Envelope 4 is always the amplitude envelope, and annoyingly you always have to turn the level up once you've opened it. So like that. I think a good place to start is I usually go for the classic tube. Usually leave the drive similar to where it is now. Famous dimension expander, just a bit. Give it a bit more size. And then here, very important, go on the oscillator tab, hit restart via gate, and what that does is it'll start each wave, start its oscillation from exactly the same point. So this will eliminate kind of fluctuation from every time you hit the note. Like sometimes it'll just sound different all the time. This will make it sound the same every single time, over and over again. So let's layer that with another, just a simple saw or square. Something to just give it a bit of body. Like square in this case. Tune it down an octave, give it a bit more beef. So now, yeah, here's the thing that I feel really makes a difference when you're making sounds in Massive. And what I like to do sometimes is route an LFO to the pitch of both oscillators. And you can try different amounts. I'm going to put it on 12 right now. Makes it sound a bit like a circus sound, which is a bit useless. But if you turn the rate on that oscillator up really fast, it'll start self-oscillating, and you can get some very interesting results. So we're getting faster, faster. So I kind of like that. Let's check what the amp knob underneath is, more or less the amount that the LFO works. So once you've done that, you can mess around with the amp knob and get some interesting results as well. Kind of like that. So now, just to get a little bit of separation, let's route these two oscillators to, oh, and you can detune them a bit if you want, but I'm just going to leave it now. Might sound interesting. We can try. I'm just going to leave it normal tuning. We've got a bit of the tuning because of the LFO anyway. Well, it has a similar effect. So now, let's put a little bit of bit crushing on it, just a bit, and I tend to keep that in the position where it's already in. If you go onto the routing tab, you can see where everything is. I tend to keep that right where it is, and then insert 2, which goes over everything. I just put a little shaping on it, just give it a bit more bite. Let's go to the oscillator. Oh no, sorry, to voicing. And we'll put the unisono up to 3, but without any pitch spread or pan position, just to give it a bit more volume, more or less, a bit more beef. Cool, I like that. So you can mess around, try phase, but here's a tip. If you do use phase, you're gonna have to route the same LFO to the phase, otherwise it'll just sound bad. Sounds dirty. One thing I find really, really good about Massive is the noise generator. You have the obvious white, brown, and then you have many other different type of noises, like murmur, which sounds like talking, which is very interesting, aluminium, lots of different types, worth a try, just experimenting with them. So I'm going to turn the color all the way up because I just want a bit of... I think noise gives a lot of texture to stuff. Do a little bit of filter feedback. And yeah, let's give that a bounce. Because of the LFO, we can't use this sound on any notes apart from the ones that it actually sounds good on. That sounds hard. But when you play this further up, that weirdness can sometimes sound kind of cool. So like, just sounds very kaput. So let's go back down to the octave that we want this at. I kind of like the F sharp as well. That's the G. I think I'm going to do a G, sample the G and the F sharp. Cool. So, just create a little region. G. Give that a little bounce. We'll call it Massive Terror Reese. G. I'm going to bounce this into a folder that I have designated for resampling, which is a very good idea that you have a folder like that. So also when you're just working on tracks and you might come across a sound that you like, but it doesn't necessarily fit into that track, it's a good idea to just bounce it into a folder that you continuously update, and that you have all your sounds in there that you've made. So let's go ahead, bounce that down to there, and then we're going to do the F sharp version as well. There we go. So double click in there. Put you down to F sharp, and then we'll do it again. I still haven't found out how to make the sharp sign on a Mac, so if anybody knows, please write that down in the comments. So now we have these two audio files. So let's, I created a contact before. So let's open up this contact, and we're going to load in these audio files that we created with Massive. Here we go, Massive Carries. So let's take our G and our F sharp. I think we'll do the G. Sounds more interesting. So here's our G, and I have contact set up so that it routes everything, the root to an F. So now we have to go into the mapping editor and change that to a G. And now you can finally play it on different notes. And the cool thing is that movement, when you then play it on different notes, has different speeds. So you can get some pretty interesting movement within the sound just from playing different notes. So now what I'm going to do is I want this to loop. I don't want it just to end. So I'm going to go into the wave editor here, and we're going to select the loop and just find a place that sounds good. Cool, I like that. If you have any clicks, just use the X fade, but I don't hear anything. I think this sounds good. So let's say we want to create, let's give it a bit of movement. The mod's here, so we have our pitch set to 2. That's fine. Let's leave it at that for the pitch bend wheel. Let's create a let's just create a low pass here. I'll just use this daft. Take the cutoff down, and I'm going to assign that cutoff to MIDI CC1, which is the mod wheel. So now, okay, and here's a little trick from back. A lot of people used to do this, and it sounds pretty cool because you can get a very controlled phase effect. More or less, what you do is you just save your instrument here. Save edited instrument, Terrorese. I'm going to save it into this right here as the same name, including patch and samples. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load recent and load the same Reese again. So now we have 2 versions of the same sound, and I'm going to have to route the MIDI assigning to 1 as well. So when I hit the keyboard, I'm now triggering both sounds at the same time. Let me put the mod up. And now this is the fun bit. If you then go onto the pitch mod of the second or the first, whichever you want, and you add modulator, envelope, ADSR. That sounds messed up. But take that all the way down to like 0.7. I find 0.7 is good. Sorry, 0.07. Now, your own controlled phasing, and it will always be the same. And you can change the attack, the envelope, to change the sound of your phase. Slower, fast. We'll just leave it kind of where it was. And here's a good reason why you shouldn't do what I just did. Because of this, if you change anything in one of the contact instances, you're going to have to change it in the other one too. So it's good to try to get your sound exactly the way you want it before you then create a duplicate, because I forgot to do something and now I have to go and do it on both of them. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to click on the script editor, and this is a pretty hard way to find Portamento. This is the only place I did find Portamento. So if you go into script editor and you go to performance, at the bottom you have Unisono Portamento. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to put mono mode onto legato. That means there's only going to be portamento when the notes are played legato, not when they're played apart from each other. And we're going to put portamento mode onto auto. So I'm going to have to do the same thing, and I'm going to take, let's say I'll take this down to like 50. Now I'm going to have to do the same thing on the other sound because I forgot to do that before, but bear with me. And should be done in a second. Oops. There we go. Unisono Portamento. And put it on legato, auto, and we had it at 50. There we go. And now we have a glide between the 2 notes. There we go. Cool. So, yeah, you got it. Cool little Reese. Now the next thing I want to show you, which is very, very useful, and this has helped me a lot. With drums, you don't really know what the tuning is, and it's hard to find out. All you can really do is tune it by ear and boost fundamentals and harmonics to a sound. But I found a really good way of getting very pure sounds and drum sounds where you know what the tuning is to actually make the drum sounds yourself. Now, if you just open a contact and you have the initial sound here. Now, if you select sine square, you might not be able to hear this at home, but if I play it up, it's just a little impulse. Now, what we want to do is find the lowest point where there really is bass. And let's say the root note of the track that we're working in is F. So we'll go down and we'll find that F that really has that punch, that boom. Now, again, put up the level. Now what we want is to create, that's not really a kick drum, it's just a bass. But if we put an envelope onto this, and let's say we route that to 36. All of a sudden it is a bass drum. And with this you have far more control over the actual shape of your sounds. And it just gives you a lot of freedom. And you can take it a step further, which is pretty fun. And instead of using the envelope, you can actually use these performers. And let's just make a little straightforward beat. So we'll sync this to 16ths. So here we got, oops. Cool, I like that. And you know, now I have it a bit mixed with square, so with square you're going to hear it much more at home, but sine is more useful when you're actually making a pulse to layer your drums with. But just so for the purpose of hearing it, let's put it back onto square a little bit. So that's just using one oscillator now. Now if we want to do, oh, and you have the what's also cool is you have these different different patterns where you can draw in different shapes. So let's say we want to do an alternate pattern. Just do bit of a poor choice of shape. We change that shape. We can make it an alternate pattern. Oops. And we can route that to a macro. And change the actual pattern. Now if you'd want to get rid of that bass spill in between, an idea is to route the same LFO to the amplitude, and then it's really just an impulse, but you won't have much bass anymore either. But for this purpose, let's leave it the way it was. It was pretty fun. So now we need a snare. So let's stay with white noise here. We're going to go to LFO 8, route that to the amplitude, turn up the color, and then we're going to go back to performer as well. And here, we're going to just put it where snares would be, 16ths. Oops, obviously not there. Up to you, any pattern you want to do. Again, you can have different patterns on the bottom and the top. There's an abundance of curve shapes. You can get some interesting Interesting glitchy kind of feel. Cool, and you can do the same. Now if you'd want to have hi-hats, you can also route, you have another slot still with the noise. You can route a normal LFO, or you could choose a different shape, or route it to another performer as well if you want to have something which isn't constantly the same. Here I'm just going to use an LFO and have a quick decay. And we'll just put that on 16ths, and now I should have a nice little fast hi-hat. Cool thing about this is you have full control over stuff, and from, you know, with one macro now I can turn this beat into a sound. So I can just turn amplitude 1 down with the bass drum down. Then I can also have it possibly go to color so that we won't hear the noise anymore. And turn oscillator 3 up, and on oscillator 3, let's take something strange. Put that there, put that there, and now can't really hear that well. Let's get some. Why is this so quiet? You get the idea. It could just be as simple as that. Could do the same thing from before. There you go. So check out the Loopmasters sample CD, and thanks for listening.